start. Well, hello there, Matthew Smith. How are you this fine morning?
I'm fantastic, Matt Helbig. I'm really thankful that you can start this show because apparently my lips don't, work in this
Well, that
context.
mic is sounding really great. I'm glad you finally stepped up your audio game.
Are you saying I've been inadequate up to this point?
Yes, I have said that.
I think that's what you're implying. Cool, man. Well, it's good to be here. Happy Friday, and man, it's fun to be doing another one of these. So today, I'd like to take us through JOANN's extravaganza. Talk a little bit about intensity in email. Does that sound okay?
It sounds intense. Just looking down this email already, my eyes are burning. So,
I like to think about using a point system
Mhm.
when I do design. So for my main business, Fathom and Draft, and I work on, design directing, we often will say for every color change, for every typography change, for every line or line difference, there's a point. And I don't play golf, but the closest analogy I have is to golf, right? So you want to get your score as low as possible. And this thing has the highest score I've seen of an email in a long, long time. It's just, there's so much change throughout the email and intensity. And what that does is every time you have a difference in typography or a difference in padding or a difference in like a color or a line or anything, you're asking the user to add to what they understand the language of the email or of the design to be. So it's just constantly asking the user's brain to like add more. And even though that's not something the user is sitting there going, I can see the point values changing. I don't like this. They're not thinking that, but they're feeling it, right? They're feeling like, whoa, this is a lot, right? And when your brand can be exciting and it can be intense and like powerful and really pop, but it doesn't need to overwhelm. And so a good example in this one is just like you've got Happy Thanksgiving from your friends at JOANN. That little lockup, it's fine. But then you've got this next, you literally have four in this very small area, four different, ways of displaying the content. Is that necessary? And the question that I always ask, and you've heard me say it on other episodes, is what job is this different set of typography doing? Right. So you could argue that in the top, in the nav, the job that's being performed is that it's sort of setting out the nav from everything else. The spacing is different. The typography being uppercase is different. There's some things I would do differently about it, but more or less it's working, right? And the sail being green instead of black, it's different for a reason. It's trying to say, hey, special, look over here. And that part of the email works great. But then you get down to this next part and it's just Happy Thanksgiving. Awesome. Nice and big. The next three lines, they aren't effectively doing a job at those different sizes.
Yeah, you really have to just read everything to figure out what's going on. Yeah, and the top section, the preview text and the nav are all live text. Then that kind of falls apart after this big hero.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we hammer on live text because living in basically a web that is like 15 years old. That's what we used to do 15 years ago on the web, is do imagery with text like this. And we've moved on, and email needs to grow the F up and do the same for all kinds of reasons, and accessibility being one of the top on that list. I'm pushing for legal, where this kind of thing could be a lawsuit waiting to happen if people don't start getting 508 compliant, and or I think there's like a double and triple A standard now for accessibility.
Scroll down there. We got some pant hacks, some GIFs.
Yeah, so
Exciting.
this is interesting. Like this is actually kind of a fun little clever moment, for a company that's trying to sell like a lot of DIY, right? Like kind of an interesting way to use a GIF, and I think it's smart. But why isn't that up here? Really leading the pack. Happy Thanksgiving seems kind of tried, and stale. So I'd love to see that further up with a really nice, strong CTA to draw people into the site, to move people from the GIF into the action. As we keep going down, I feel like I'm in kind of a cheap Times Square, really, really intense, and it doesn't need to be. And again, new typography, again, it's probably the same font family. This condensed isn't, but more or less it fits, but it just feels intense. Like, what job is it doing? Yeah, okay, interesting. It all this stuff here gets me thinking about Black Friday. Tiny CTA. Now, it looks like this entire thing is the same CTA, but that's not being communicated really at an interface level. I'm a big fan of trying to create, real simplicity and continuity, and I don't think they're doing that. That said, I am curious how this performed.
Yeah, I always
So,
think I think there only, not that there only has to be one GIF in an email, but when you have multiples right next to each
mhm.
other, I think it is a little distracting as well.
Yeah. And I didn't check the size on this email, but I would imagine with that GIF and this one, it starts to get pretty heavy in terms of loading, and that always is something to think about, right? So, yeah, I mean, overall, this feels like a kind of a crazy ad, and
See, the rest of this email is actually pretty interesting. So they have like all these prices are all live text, and the little shop now has a hover effect on it.
oh, good call. I actually didn't realize that. That's pretty impressive. Now,
Yeah.
that's so interesting to me that they would, I guess it's because this is a GIF that they're choosing not to do that here. That is a huge GIF. Like, this entire image is a GIF. I
Yeah.
bet that is heavy, heavy duty. But yeah, that's a good call. Like, that's pretty neat that somebody chose to do that. And that's going to be helpful for people who are sight impaired. And this is the kind of thing that if you index it right on your site, then it actually adds to your SEO value, which is, I think, a really powerful business move. Cool bulletproof buttons with hover states. That's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
very nice. But there is a lot of stuff to scroll, so this does seem like it might have been made for mobile first,
Mm-hmm.
and the desktop, maybe in this case, is just a little bigger than needed potentially.
Mm-hmm.
If you scroll down too, there's like a whole coupon, which seems like that could have been maybe higher up as well.
Yeah, these are all fascinating problems to try and solve. I'm really interested in the idea that you could, and maybe they're doing this, but I kind of doubt it, is being able to run multivariate testing on the order of these
Yeah.
things, and try some of that kind of stuff. I don't know too many people that are doing that, but I think it's really valuable. I think, the coupon seems like it would be really important to put right up top. And I actually do like this lockup. And it's impressive that it's,
Yeah,
live
that's
text.
actually like a border style dashed around the whole coupon too. This is
Oh,
all like live accessible.
Shazam.
Yeah, pretty advanced. It definitely probably took a lot of time for them to make that and build that out. So maybe
Well,
highlight it
isn't
a
that
little.
interesting? Yeah. Well, good job on that part, y'all. It's interesting to sort of try and solve some of these problems and think about it. This kind of stuff is weird to me. This whole email being pretty heavily Black Friday and then like bringing back this green and a very different type style setup down here. It feels hectic. And some of that's just probably the brand. You can see this is almost directly from their weekly ad. So whoever is building the email is likely using some of the same tactics that were used in their ad. So I'm aware that this is, at some level, it's like a bigger brand. I would call a problem. Now, some people would disagree, but
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you're saying about like a point system or something where there's only a certain number of things that maybe you can do in an email.
well, and the other thing with me is like email feels like a tool, a situation where it's like being in the line at the grocery store. You get in line and you're like, oh my God, now that I'm here, please get me out. Like, I feel trapped. Maybe not everybody feels that way, but it's like, I just want to get out. Like, now that I'm in line, and it's a utility moment. When I'm out in the open and I'm browsing like other things, that's fine. But when I get in line, that's it. And to me, email is that part of the kind of product cycle where just show me what I need to read and see and get me through. Whereas sometimes web browsing can be a little bit more, okay, I can float around a little bit, those kinds of things. But an email, something like this, it's pretty taxing to read. That said, I would love to, if I had more time, I would love to like redesign an email like this and then split test it and do some usability and or design feedback type of testing and see how people feel about it, see if it makes a difference. I can have a bunch of opinions, which I do, but it'd be pretty interesting to see how people actually respond to that change.
How we go back to that the email should serve the customer more than the
Mhm.
company. For
Right.
something like a sales event like Black Friday or Thanksgiving, like how does that work, I guess?
Yeah. So I think that's a good question. In my mind, a company like JOANN, who's huge, should have enough customer data where this already should be personalized. This text up top, even if you needed it to be an image, using nifty images. So you could actually put Happy Thanksgiving, Matthew, from your friends at JOANN, and then some kind of updated text here. It could even have like information about my store, that kind of stuff. And then this could potentially be, there could be 4 or 5 different gifts to choose from for the email team, and they could serve me one that seemed most appropriate for my persona type. That would be another thing that could be done. And then just generally putting things toward the top that match my persona potentially, and or things that are interesting. So if they're like, Matthew comes into craft stores like this and buys paints and stuff for his kids. Okay, he's not going to be interested in women's pants. So let's figure out like a different type of gift to serve him. So there's just things like that that can be done. The other thing is, I think this is a real opportunity right up at the top to say, what in this email are you interested in? When there's a huge list of things here, there's a cool opportunity to use anchor links or something similar that could draw me into the email to just the place that I'm wanting to get to. And I think, they're trying to do some of that here with the navigation, but that leads out to the site. So there's some ways that, they could preview what's coming. Because right now this looks like Happy Thanksgiving, we're closed. Oh, here's some pant hacks. I have no idea that there are all these coupons and like opportunities down below, right? If there was some clarity, like huge deals on XYZ down below, that would be helpful. Those are the kinds of things that I think I like to think about in designing an email or an interface is, how do I serve the customer at each moment? So I would say like the job to be done in this top area is to describe the whole of the email and create a warm, welcoming message. Whereas right now it's only saying this warm, welcoming message, talking a little bit about the brand, right? Because they're saying, hey, we wanted to give our team the day off, which I think is cool. That's a cool brand moment, but it doesn't come through, right?
Yeah, I definitely think I would have simplified this. Maybe this Happy Thanksgiving email is a separate email and they have pictures of their team or something like that. Or
yeah, that would have done a
shown
huge,
like what they've done, for the community this year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Black Friday, these look like they're only online deals. So that's just a whole other separate email that's, hey, these are online deals. Like, make sure you don't miss out. Download our app. But unless I scroll through this entire thing, and I might miss something, or I might make a purchase, off the whim and maybe miss out on some savings. And I kind of feel like that's not the best experience. So.
And to your point about web and mobile earlier, is there's an opportunity if they were to figure out how to stack these side by side, then there's a lot less scrolling. Honestly, even on mobile, I think that's an interesting, space to test. I would love to see Nielsen or some other people start to do, or Baymard start to do some testing in emails. I don't think they've done much yet. We do some research into Baymard through some of our large e-commerce work for Fathom and Draft, but I don't think of a ton yet that we've uncovered around email, and it would be neat to see some testing around some of this. Maybe I'll reach out to them.
Thank you for jumping on. I think this was a good one. I learned a lot.
Yeah, me too, man. It's interesting to think through. Thanks for pointing out the live text. I think that made a ton of difference. There's some cool things happening here, but it doesn't meet that really good level that we're looking for. But I hope we all learned a lot. And have a great Friday, man.